Hello, guys. To Cats Video Production, we continue our broadcast, and the special guest today, the Lynn Su. She is running for the Florida State Representative, and so, Lynn, hello and welcome to our audience, and everybody have an opportunity to ask any questions to you regarding what's going on in Republican Party, regarding CPAC. And we know the CPAC now it's running in Florida, in Orlando, and yesterday Ron DeSantis, governor of the Florida, opened with this CPAC forum, and tomorrow even our president Donald J. Trump gonna be have a speech to all Republicans who support all good things in the United States. So we got a lot of questions to you, Lynn. But first of all, just remind us why you're running and for the state representative, and what does that mean for everybody who lives in Florida?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you good, perfectly.
Okay. Yeah, obviously this background is not working well. Hi, everyone.
I told you this is a live broadcast.
I know. I feel like I'm, in those theme parks where they have a
But we
frame
can
and you put
change
your
it in
head
the
in.
future. Yeah, don't worry about backgrounds,
Okay.
because it's very important to concentrate on your personality and why you're running for the representative, and what does that mean for everybody. Because that's a hard situation. It's 2022 already, and we know how important this year is for everybody, for us, because it's just a middle election between 24.
Yes. So the reason why I'm running is because I feel that to make a big difference inside of our, and to make a big difference for the community, legislation is very important. The second part is to make sure that our Constitution and our government is running by the Constitution. It's important to have people who are on the ground, like grassroots people, to be there to make sure that that's running the way that our government originally created a contract and promised us that that would be. So those are the two things that I think the reason why I'm running is because I'm just another person on the street like everybody else. I go to work, I do things that everybody does, pay taxes, I abide by the law. When they give something else for us to do, we either agree or not agree with it, but we still do it if it's the law. So and we know that what it is that is unconstitutional, and we want to make sure that we protect that. So that's where I'm standing.
So always the normal people like you and me, like everybody else, going to the work can change our situation right now. Because if we see the local election, that is more important than the presidential election, even, because we have to change that situation. What's it's already in our country. Can you imagine just 14 months Biden administration do these things, and how they changed United States completely? The CPAC, Pompeo mentioned it, Ted Cruz mentioned it. How many bad changes coming up to our floor? So the CPAC is running right now. Just tell us a little bit more about the CPAC. Maybe this is important. So many congresswomen, congressmen came to this. So many Republican politician establishment there, and they are looking for the endorsement to our local elections. And this is the hard situation to make endorsement. Could you please explain why Republican establishment does not endorse to the local election? We know how important that, but Republican establishment, I think they maybe have a different opinion, or maybe I don't know why they are not endorsed the local politicians.
Well, that's a really good, really good question, right? Because actually, what's happening on the ground, like locally, whether it even be municipalities, like I think for some of the residents, we have like Sunny Isles, we have Hollandale, we have Hollywood. Like all of these elections are also very important, because whether your city is going to have a red light camera, or whether they're going to charge for parking for their residents, like things like that, which is public roads, like all of this is very important, and we really have to keep an eye on that. As for why the party would actually focus more on, government federal elections, it's not hard to say, but there's, there's more money involved, there's more power involved, right? And if we all understand our constitution, we would know that actually the states actually govern. So this is why it's so important. Like, I was talking about why I actually chose to, run for a state representative is because the state is what is actually directly affecting people. There is, there's an article in our constitution that says that, the federal government does have um, power, but not over the states. And that's why you see our Governor DeSantis actually issuing things like no mask mandates, no vaccine mandates. All of this is actually still on the state level, but the way the federal government works is they're trying to work around it so as to actually create that overreach into our state and dictate what the companies will do or whatnot, actually if they're national companies. So with that said, that why they don't endorse local candidates, I think the party itself will back up any Republican. Let's talk about Republican candidates first. So any Republican candidates will be endorsed by the party if they are an incumbent, meaning they are already holding office. They will support those in rerunning for those seats. But if you're brand new like me, and we have no political experience, we have not been elected before, and we're running in the primary, it's not until after the primary will endorsements start. So that is just the bylaws and the rules of the party that they have to abide by.
So based on what you said, if you don't have any experience, it's very hard even to register as a candidate for the election, right?
Well, registering and filing to run as a candidate is not that difficult. I think if you reach all the basic milestones, like things like you have to be a resident of Florida for 2 years, you have to be over 21 years old, you have to live in the district at least on the night of the election. Like that is quite simple to reach. However, like to gain any traction with the party or with other seniors or other local officers or local elected officials, that's a little bit tough. So you really have to prove yourself because we really don't know what your record is, what you really stand for. A lot of politicians will say something and then when they go in, they do something else. So obviously it's very important that we stay consistent. This is why I think it's so great that I'm with you on this show, so as to keep my record straight. Like my answer from today till the next day or till the day of the election will be the same. And when I'm elected as an official, it will continue that way and continue to drive whatever legislation that I create and what I want to pass.
Yes, and thank you to be honest with us because you're not afraid. Some of the people who running for the politicians, they just change their information about herself, and so it's hard to find who is the behind that mark check on the Republican because the people came with the ballots and they're looking into the ballots and they see the name, they completely don't understand who it is the people are. So, and it happens in a day in the action election day. So, because they came, for example, they came to for the election for the president, but they see a lot of the position. So, in the bottom of that, so the people just choose the people, the candidates who does know nothing about them completely, and this is not the right choice, because we always told the people you have to see the all interviews, you have to see the all kind of information who these people to get vote for them. So that I think that's the right way to how to with the politicians who are gonna change our future, they're gonna told our childrens what's they gonna be a study in in a school, the critical race theory or something like this, the things which is we not agree with. But let's talk about a little. Our viewers can ask the questions over the chat. I just remind you guys, please don't be, that shy. Ask the questions. Yes, and you also got the special link. You can use the special link, and you can get into the studio and ask the question personally to Lynn. So the one question is from our viewers, Lynn. The last elections, they came in with the wife, and they see what the wife already voted by mail ballots, but she actually did not. What's the step by step in that situation? How to fight for that vote?
Hmm. Unfortunately, like once that vote has already been taken out of the envelope, and that information and the ballot comes in bare, there's nothing much you can do. What our governor and our legislators have been doing to reform the voting, the voter integrity, right, bill that has been passed, is, even though it's not going to take effect immediately, the thing is, like, they're allowing candidates to delegate representatives to these supervisor of elections to make sure that they can oversee the names, and that are on the ballot, or not the names, but the make sure the postal stamp is there, everything is like legitimate. They can go in and look at that, and there's a request for that. So that is a new bill that came out. And because we are in a redistricting period, there's so many special elections involved. The cleaning of the voter roll hasn't been cleaned out. So it usually happens in every odd year, and this year we didn't do. I mean, in 2021 they didn't do it because of the special elections, and also there's just a variety of things going on
And
that
special
didn't.
rules, right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
So there is an election coming up March 8th, right? If you are in those districts, like, please go and vote for your candidate, right? And there's, I believe, Joseph Carter III is running for state senate in District 33, which is up north. If that is your district, and that's a senator district for state senate. Right now in our area right now where we are, which is like, the Sunny Isles and the Aventura, like Miami Beach area, there is no election yet. But basically, what they can do about that is to make sure that you yourself check your name. Go onto the voter registration, make sure your address is correct, make sure that you're not already registered somewhere else if you're from out of state. Like, make sure that one is completely cleaned out, so that we have, at least if we each individual person make sure that their household has a certain number of votes. Like, you live with your husband and a child. There's 3 people, right? One of them is under 18, so they can't vote, things like that. Like, if we start going in there and each individually make sure that we are making voting as integrous as possible, making sure that it is legit and clean, and like ourselves, that would be a first step. Make sure you're not registered in 2 different addresses. You're not registered in like your old address isn't receiving mail, things like that. So once that vote by mail, now you have to request it. And I think it happens in every election cycle. You can request a ballot. So that's something you can
For
do
some states,
as.
that already you without any request, and it was on a presidential election. Remember, in November, they
Mhm.
sent to everybody, and
Mm.
even if you not requested, in on so many states over. So maybe that situation, do you think that's not going to repeat in Florida? I mean, if you not register, that a couple, what I'm talking about, they are not requested mail-in ballots, but as I said, when they came to the voter poll, they told them, oh, your wife already voted by mail,
Mhm.
and that was surprised, because
Mhm.
that situation reflected what the fraud situation, because
Yes.
she actually did not vote.
Mhm. No, that definitely did happen in 2020. Because of COVID, it gave a good reason and a good excuse for people to say, how do we get the voters out to vote? So the easiest way was to have a universal mail-in ballot, right? So universal means they don't care if you hadn't registered or registered. If you had if you had voted in the past 8 years at some point, it will be sent out to you. And in some cases, I think like even people who didn't vote in the past 8 years also got ballots.
Mhm.
I had somebody up in somewhere like I think North Carolina. I don't remember what it was, but somebody was showing a ballot of their dog that died 12 years ago that got a ballot. So,
Okay.
um, so this is really a group effort, right? A team effort.
I thought it
If we
never happened in the United States. I know we all came from somewhere. I mean, from the Russia, for example, in my case, and I thought it happens only in Russia, because yeah. But I heard from the old politicians that it's a common thing here, and it started so many decades ago. Uh, but I
so
still in a shock.
I actually want to initiate, like us on the ground. Like it's harder to have a couple people manage 320 million people. It's easier for us individually to like advocate and make sure that there's only one ballot with our name. If we're getting mail-in votes, if we want to vote in person, make sure it's clear and that you don't have any requests for any mail-in votes or ballots. Like that would be a good start on our part. I just want to make it's that we take the responsibility onto ourselves as well as making sure that the legislators are not, playing funny business about mailing out universal mail-in ballots. So that's, it's a step. And then if you get one or two, in some cases, some people get three, like you make sure that like, hey, you know what? There's a red flag going on here, and like report to your SOE so that they know. Not that I don't know. I mean, I trust, right? That I would like to trust that our supervisor of elections are doing work with integrity, and whether that is on one side or the other, whether you are a Democrat or a Republican, or like even the ballots that are mailed out don't have your party written on the back of that envelope. Like that's something that I saw like during the 2020 election that I thought was not very good, because it's so easy to distinguish like a Republican ballot and a Democrat ballot, which is not supposed to be, because like even though we are registered, those things are also private. If you don't know that person's birthday and social security number or address, you cannot actually find out whether they are registered as Republican or Democrat.
So, and you're supposed to do it ahead of the time, right? Not in the exact day of the election, right?
Not on the exact day. The mail-in ballots will come in early, and I assert that like you have to have it the post dated on the day of the election in order for it to count. I'm not sure if there are any updates to the rules and laws. And I don't think that, like anything about your personal information apart from your name should be on the ballot. It should be on the envelope,
So,
if
do you
any at all.
recommend to when you check it, the months before election day, or when it's or as soon as it's possible?
So I think there's an ending date for registration and I don't have that date off the top of my head. I only remember what the primary election date is. I think it's 6 weeks before the election, if I'm not
6 weeks,
mistaken. Right. So 6 weeks before the
months and half.
primary, right. So 6 weeks before the primary election, right, which is in August, and then 6 weeks before the election is the last time you can register for the general election. So make sure that just to be safe in case of any mistakes, do that by June or even by May, or even if you remember, you see it now and you think it's like fresh in your mind, like do it now. Go in and check and see if like there's anything else. Are you registered? Are you registered for a mail-in ballot? Are you registered for an in-person voting? I would love to encourage everybody to go and do an in-person voting. And, if it were up to me, I would love to have one-day voting. So, we only vote on the election day and we just increase more precincts and make sure that everything is transparent. There's nobody doing anything else. Now, of course, like we have to consider there are senior citizens who, may be living in homes that are, that need assistance. They can't come out. Or some people who do want to vote and they're not present. Like all of that gets to be factored in somehow. How can we manage that and make sure that that is actually also working would be like beautiful. So right now, I think they're trying to work that out. We're not clear on that. So, okay. So
And
So
also, if
any
it's not one day, it's an more opportunity for fraud. To to who's count the votes. So most of them the Democrats, even if it's Florida, and it's so more opportunity to make a fraud inside, to put some voters for ballots for another candidate for the Democrats or for somebody else.
well, we're going to assume that let's assume that the law works to a certain, to a certain degree.
Because you got
That
no
yeah.
chance, from the beginning. If you started your campaign, so the Democrats ask you, do you agree on that rules? Do you think that their fraud is coming up? And if you said yes, I think the election is honest. And after that, you see the fraud is coming up. They said, okay, you confirm this election is honest. Okay, if you said from the beginning it's not honest and you won, so what's coming up next? Guess. The Democrats said, okay, you said it from the beginning, and there is gonna be fraud. Let's recount votes, or let's make an audit. Just explain a little bit more about that situation because it's very interesting.
Okay. Um, I think that there's been a group that I really admire. A friend of mine created this group. It's called Defend Florida. And what they've been doing is they've been actually taking the voter roll and
Hmm.
anything that has like names of people who, who had voted. Sometimes like one household has eight, and like out of the eight, three of them don't exist. And we don't know if they had submitted a mail in ballot or no mail in ballot, but the voter rolls haven't been cleaned. There's also people who passed away, right? So people passed away because of, old age or because of an accident or one reason or another. So
Hmm.
basically, like, we find a good amount. We found a large amount of people that were not supposed to get ballots and were getting ballots, right? Is it enough to actually shift an election? I would say like borderline, right? Borderline, because the margin that was won was a little bit higher. Now, I'm
Hmm.
not saying that that doesn't exist. I think that for me personally, I like strongly believe that the election that was tipped was not tipped at the ballot at the polls as much as it was tipped from not being people not having exposure to the Hunter Biden issue, right? Hunter Biden receiving money from both
Yes.
Ukraine and China, and all of that just got covered up. It was deleted off of posts. Like, you can't post anything in social media, nothing on the mainstream media news. All of that has been covered up. So many people in polls that they had researched and asked about, they said, like, if you knew about Hunter Biden, would you have voted for Joe Biden? They said no,
Mhm. No.
right? So that, I think, is the biggest scale, because if like the whole reason why, another good reason why, like, Donald Trump won against Hillary Clinton was because of those emails and the bleach bit hard drive. So because they didn't cover that up, and it was they social media didn't block Donald Trump for posting all those, that news, people lost trust in her completely, right? Like, first, we didn't really trust her because of, like, Benghazi and all that other stuff. But with this, it just kind of like tipped the scale, right? People just went, "Ugh, no, we don't want to vote for her. She's a crook." So, with that said, like, if the news about Hunter Biden had actually stayed in social media and on the posts and was actually on the news and all that October surprise, um, I think things would be different, definitely. So so that's what I'm saying about like these minor votes that are happened in Florida. Do I think that there's a discrepancy in the numbers? I absolutely think that the voter roll needs to be cleaned. I do believe that we need volunteers. So, like, for my plea to you is, I think if you're a poll worker, you actually get paid, right, for the day that you work. Um, get with a group of poll workers and train yourself to be accepted as a poll worker. Volunteer to be a poll watcher. So make sure that everything is going right. Know exactly who you need to call if there's an issue that you see is some funny business going on. So yeah, volunteer. If you don't want to volunteer for a team, a campaign team, Like, I have to tell you that candidates need you. I need you. If you have time to spare, like even for an hour a week, like that's going to be, and 100 people volunteer, I'm going to have 100 hours. So that's very valuable to us as candidates. And it's also valuable to, the state. You'd be a big contribution by being a poll worker or a poll watcher.
And I showed some. You've got a website, and you can register as a volunteer here. There is the sign. You can read about Lynn everything on the top, and then you can register as a volunteer, and you can donate for Lynn campaign because it's very important. You can contact her. So I strongly recommend the site. The website is so
Hmm.
easy, and you see lynnsu.com. So you
Hmm.
can find everything here. So, Lynn, you tell us the thing is gonna be changed, and I see so many censorship in the social media, so many censorship in outlets, main media, and there is no opportunity actually to even have a conversation with audience. If you're Republican, you have no access to them, and social media banned all Republicans, and there is no freedom of speech anymore. Tell a little bit about that.
I think it's scary. Definitely. Like, I remember when I was a kid and my dad, we saw in Thailand when a TV goes on commercial and you're not allowed to have Coke and Pepsi in the same TV show because like there's a restriction to that, right? And then when I
Yes.
came back to the United States, I think I was in like first or second grade. I'm like, oh my God, there's a Coke and a Pepsi commercial right after each other. And my dad said, yeah, that's the beauty of capitalism and freedom of speech. And I thought, yeah, that is so amazing how what America does and how it does things. And now we're going down this slippery slope of like, you know
Now it's only Biden advertisement. Biden and Harris also like a Coke and Pepsi.
yeah, that's the Coke and Pepsi for you right there. So
Still, we still have a choice.
oh, although I don't know which one I'd choose. Um, so basically, I think that any kind of speech limitation is a slippery slope. One day you say, oh, Facebook is a private entity and Facebook can censor you. Then you have to say, hey, what about Section 230, right? That protects all these platforms for them to be able to say, to ever have people share whatever they want to share. Now, see, that's where it goes wrong. Like, if they're protected by Section 230, they should not also be protected by screening out people's posts. Like, a lot of the things that have been said about the vaccine, the virus, the election, and everything else, like, slowly some things start to reveal itself. Whether it reveals it out to be exactly as whatever that, whatever the theory that people come up with or not, but at least, like, now we know that cloth masks are not effective. So stuff like that. It's just it's insane. So I think that we should we put a little disclaimer on there saying, like, this has not been verified, please check your facts or whatever. Yes, let's do that, versus like blacking it out and saying, oh, this content is not available right now. Like, when is it going to be available? When the truth really comes out. So then, like, whatever it is that they say on on the other side, they really should also put a blackout on it and say content not available right now. Like all that, like the like vaccines for kids from 2 years old, things like that. Like, can we put a fact check on that, please?
Yeah, and this is happening everywhere, every social media platform. I will not speak about the outlets, media outlets. It's impossible to have some little tiny spot to speak out about a conservative situation, what's going on about the conservative uh, uh, candidates, and about everything what's going on in our world.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's
Okay, tell us a little bit more about your position, your seats, about how to register, how to give you your vote, and a little bit more about your exact situation. Yeah, what's the number and something what you want to share with our audience?
Okay. So I always want people to be present to what I'm standing for. Those things are school educational freedom, like meaning we allow parents to choose what schools they think suit their children the best,
Mhm.
right? That's very important to me because you parents know their children the best, right? And we're not going to go into the exception of like maybe the 1 or 2% of parents that are abusive to their children. I mean, I'm talking about if you're listening to me now, it means you care about the country. If you care about the country, that means you care about your children. And the fact that you do care about your children, you want the best for your children. I know that that was my mom's theory. Like, she's an immigrant from Thailand. And the only thing that she ever hoped for me to do, and the only thing that she said she can give me as a gift is an education. So she always made sure that like I was able to get into college. You know, I would do well in high school so that I could be selected for a good college. And when I went to college, that I graduated, like things like that was like a gift that parents can really give as a physical thing apart from love and affinity and care for your children. So all parents want that because they know that with, a proper education, you can actually survive in this world at some, in some way, shape, or form. So, with that said, like education then becomes, for me, I think it is a public responsibility. I think it's great that we are funding, K through 12 for children. I also want parents to have the freedom to choose. Like, I think this morning I was listening to, I don't know, the Daily Wire, and they were talking about how in New York now, all the public schools have been like, I think 20 some percent of student enrollment in New York public schools have reduced, and they've all gone to charter schools and private schools and parochial schools, which I think is great news, right? That means that parents are really looking at what public schools are teaching. And when they see the ineffectiveness of whatever public schools are teaching, they're sending their kids to a place that is more effective in education. And that's what we want to do. I want to make sure that our school systems are absolutely, bulletproof. We have students coming out, reading, writing, doing math, and being able to be competitive with others on the global stage, even. Like right now, we're only comparing each other to like New York, California, Texas, but we're not looking at like how are our children performing on the world stage, right? So I think like that's something that we get to look at. Now, the second thing that's close to my heart is that like I'm an immigrant. Well, I'm not personally the immigrant. My parents are the immigrant, but me being here, like what we see as the opportunity for education, like is that is what we get to create success from, right? There's there's always going to be fraternities of like the wealthy and people who donate libraries and buildings to the universities. We're just normal people who go to school, apply, and like get by with our merits. So I want
And
people
have
to
no
still
choice to select their school as well. This is the very not right thing, because if the parents can choose the school, that's what works better. So the people have to move from another neighborhood to another neighborhood to actually because of the school. That thing
Mhm,
have to be changed, and 22 states already changed it. They give the
mhm,
someone a voucher
mhm,
to you can go to another to school what you prefer for your
mhm.
children. This is the what do you think about that?
Absolutely. So we call it the money following the child. So basically, wherever the child chooses to go, and remember that kids always have they always have their special needs, right? Some
Yeah.
kids learn differently from others. Like I know that my friends sent their kids to like a Montessori school system where they had like when after they finished a certain like third grade or something and went into the public school system, they were far ahead of all the public school students where they were actually teaching their friends how to do homework. So you there's ways that people are more effective in learning. So basically, like what we want, what the goal is to have either a voucher system or an educational, an educational savings account for the parents, where this is, tax free. It's money from the state, and you can actually have this and save this for you to send your kids to school. So, and that's like specifically for that Florida can actually do. And there are several elected officials that are working on this. I think State Representative Alex Rizzo is doing it with Senator Manny Diaz. Several other current Floridian
That's
elected
from
officials. Yeah, Floridian officials, elected officials, are already on top of this. So they are working on this, and like I think, if we go in numbers and I'm there, we don't vote this out of the committee and make it disappear. We can actually drive it all the way through to the finish line and make sure that parents do have a choice in what their kids learn, and get rid of all this CRT. Right, the minute we create a free market out of the school business and make sure that schools are producing quality students with quality teachers that are paid, well in their own right, then we absolutely have a chance, right? We have a chance that we're going to have a future generation that is going to prosper.
Okay, Lynn, who's running against you? Do you know some information who that person is? Tell us about that person.
Okay. I believe that in my district right now, there are 2 candidates that have filed, right? They're both from Bay Harbor Village, or Bay Harbor Island, sorry, not village. So Bay Harbor Island. I don't know what there is between them that, one has to run against the other. If they, if they're seen a good candidate, then I don't know why another person from the same city would be running. But one is a professional, like the one
Both
that
of
is
them Democrats or Republicans?
Democrats.
Democrats. So you're running
Mhm.
against the Democrats.
Right. So far, I don't have a Republican candidate, and I really hope not. But and I would be happy if there was somebody who would be, stellar and, really for the people and not going in there just to be a professional politician. So speaking of my opponent, the one from Bay Harbor, he has been the mayor of Bay Harbor. He has been a commissioner, and I think he's still a commissioner today. And he was, I don't
Bell
know, he has
Harbor
a
is
lot of
very rich
accolades.
neighborhood. This is the very
Mhm.
rich neighborhood.
Yes, yes. Well, I mean, I suppose all along from Aventura all the way down is a pretty well-to-do neighborhood in general, right? I think if you're looking at Aventura, Sunny Isles, Golden Beach, right? We have Surfside, Indian Creek.
I ask Lynn because we got some changes in the political maps of the states, and a
Mhm.
couple states always has that changes, and some politicians who's run for the election, for example, have to even change your district number, a number of the seats.
Mhm.
Because that they run for another place, and after that changes, they have to run for another even city, which is not really comfortable, and not really it's kind of disgusting for politics who already print out everything, and they have to run against of the another candidates who just maybe they are also Republicans. In that situation, you have to run against of Republican against of Republican, Democrats against the Democrats, and that's kind of mixed up everything. But that you got everything is good, and the change of the map does not affect it you, right?
Actually, the map does affect me.
Okay, cool.
So the reality is, it did affect me. It's just so convenient that the map that was recreated for what was 100 and now 106 is actually literally carving out my neighborhood and putting it in the black district, which is supposed to be protected. I don't know how that was decided, but I know this area, which is a coastal town quite well. I've been living here for a couple of years. I've been involved with the city, so I know what our issues are. And I will continue to stand with them. And I'll be moving soon. So that's the news. As far as what you were talking about, like how this is something I discovered today, actually, while talking to my strategy director. We noticed that if you know, Florida says Florida has term limits. And what we just found out, it was 4 consecutive terms, right? So that means if you serve all the way through 8 years, then your term limit is up. But if you were to serve, if you wait another 2 years and then run again, you can serve another 8 years. So to me, that's not really quite term limit, because a term limit means like you shouldn't be able to serve in that seat again. Right. So, and this is what we're having, what we see in Washington, right? We have Nancy Pelosi in office for how many years now? We've had Joe Biden as a senator for how many years now?
Yeah.
So we don't even remember how many years these people have been in office or since when, because like they've always been there. So we see that. And what happens is we're circling around in the same, I mean, a fish has to change the water every so often, right? Like in a tank. Like right now, we have politicians that are swimming inside this murky water that we haven't changed the water for a long time. It's the same fish. So you can imagine why there's no creativity and there's no growth and there's no like something new and exciting inside of inside of American politics, because we still have the same ones circulating over and over and over again. I mean, like you could see that this is happening in China, right? Like the old person in power wants to come in and like take Xi Jinping out, and then like they're going to come back and they're going to fight each other back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, struggling and fighting for power just to have power. But like we have to remember that the power of America is in its people. Like the Constitution was designed so that everybody can have a part in serving their country as a legislator, creating new legislation and laws that will suit what the people are dealing with on a day-to-day basis, versus having politicians be an elitist group, being in the pockets of, major corporations and advocating and, creating laws that serve those major companies versus the people. So if we all become active and start wanting to run, that would be really great, and I think it's time for us to change it up. Like what I would say to my opponent, if I were sharing with you and your listeners about my opponent, I think he's also another professional politician who is just climbing up, from commissioner to mayor, to the next seat that is available, and then the next seat, and then the next seat. And you see these people like take on these jobs, and what have they done? I think it's so much clearer to see like what is in their voting record. These are public information. Like you can go look at every single politician in their jurisdiction and find out what is it that they have voted for, and do those votes and those ideas align with yours, and then decide.
And to change the situation in the United States, which is we all, eyewitness in the 14 months already, we see what changes coming up. We have to concentrate, focused, and we have to give the vote only Republicans, because that situation has to be changed. So we got a question from Sergei Savinov. He's asking you a little bit more about critical race theory. How it's possible in the United States to get that on the floor? How it's even possible? President of United States tell us from the media outlets what we are racist nation, United States a racist nation, and we have to do something, like a reparation for the people who we, just own, everybody own right now. That's a horrible situation. But Sergey asking you, what do you think about it? Let's talk about more about this problem.
Sergey, thank you for your question. So CRT, yeah. So I think you guys being from Russia, you're probably very familiar with the Marxist playbook, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's such a thing called critical theory. which is like mostly separating the bourgeoisies from,
It
the
got
peasants and
roots
all that.
from there, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, so they're just adding the word race into it because that's the only thing that they can use to wedge between all Americans. And it's like the inherent and the obvious difference of diversity that we have in this country, which instead of turning it into a beautiful thing of like a melting pot of all these cultures getting together, all having one mission, which is the American dream, right? We all want to be happy and successful. We want to be able to provide for ourselves, have dignity for, raising our children and our families. But instead of using that difference, they actually use it as a wedge between us to make us hate each other. And that to me is disgusting. So basically, that's where critical race theory all came about. And then why do I think that they embrace it? If you look at what I would say, I still believe that there are really amazing Democrats who are reasonable, who have common sense and who understand, right? They may be a little bit more liberal in the sense of like, they want everybody to be happy and they want everybody to have. Now, for me, I think they're using race as an issue. And this is like the Joker card, right? You throw down that Joker card and it's like race. The minute you brand someone racist, like it ends the argument. Like, I'm done. You're racist. That's it. And this is what happens like throughout. It's used to
It's
use
a
to
left ideology,
yeah,
yeah. I
it's
have no
used to
argument,
cancel
so yes,
people.
you're
It's
racist.
like done. That's it. You cancel them.
It does
You
not
don't.
matter even if you got black color of the skin. Yeah,
No, you've seen that with,
you're a white
Larry Elder, Tim
supremacist.
Scott, like all of these people who are conservatives, all of a sudden they're like, what are they called? They're called black white supremacists. Like,
Yeah,
geez, come on, and wait, Asians. I'm an Asian, and I am now called a white adjacent.
they
So
try to divide us. That's the main reason why, and the
that is
people
it. Yeah.
understand it.
So let me tell. So for me, it's just one ploy, right? One play for power. It's like however they want. It. I don't even know if it makes sense to them, right? But they know that this is like their easiest shot. It's like a kick in the shin, and then like off I go. I'm going to continue doing whatever I do by branding people racist. So it's all about power. It's all about like just making people fight. Divide and conquer. So they don't want to see us united. They don't want to see, Asians and blacks love each other. They just want to see they want to see blacks and whites fighting with each other so that it can cause all this chaos in the front and they can get to do anything else they want in the back. So that's what I think about critical race theory. Now, how it got into our school system, I think it has taken years, right? I don't think that it started now. I think it started like in the 50s and 60s. They started tearing down the structure of family, creating women as feminists, like feminine women, strong women don't need men, that kind of stuff. And, I mean, that has caused probably more divorces than anything else, right? They say like women of the higher income and women who are more independent have more divorces than women who don't. So by
Even
creating,
share, remember, Lynn? I'm strong enough to live without you, strong enough.
hey, you're a pretty good singer. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like it's all this empowerment, and it's an empowering in the wrong way. Like when we should empower each other to love and raise your children and to have them be quality citizens, right? Um, versus like breaking up the family, having women do things that is just it's a pretty big mess. But it started like slowly and surely, right? So the current narrative right now is transgender, teaching transgenderism in schools. And honestly, what rights do teachers have to teach gender preferences, right? Or not tell their parents about kids that are under 18 years old.
Mhm.
And for them to have to decide, and like in some states, like parents are not allowed to ask the doctor how they consulted their children for hormone therapy or anything else like that. Listen,
The left even tell the parents they have no rights to make a decision with how to grow up the own
yeah,
children's, and that's so un-American things that I think that in Virginia, Youngin he won only regarding that with his rise up that question and start the fight against it.
hmm seriously, we have a new political class now, political group, which is called parents. And little
Yes.
do they know, right? Like even animals, when you mess with their kids, like you're screwed. So I think I think they're
Tell us,
really
Lynn, yes, we're close to the finish. Tell us about your slogan. The slogan is "Together we can climb to greatest heights." Tell us about that situation because I think that's a very important word.
yes, yes. Um I no great thing could be accomplished on your own, right? That's one thing. So with that, I need a team. Um, and to win this election and win back our country and have things start to make sense again. Have America be great as it was designed and as it has been, right? We really need to work together. And I don't mean, I don't mean just your listeners and me, Republicans together. I mean that we need to come together as Americans, right? As Americans, like I can honestly say when people ask me, I mean, my parents are from Thailand. I obviously don't look American like the typical American. You look more American than I do,
Come on,
Nick.
yeah, you speak better than me.
But you know what I mean? Like there's a certain stereotypical type of what Americans look like. And you know what?
We're all immigrants. That's why. That's explanation.
Yeah. So that with that said, like this is the only country where no matter where you come from, you can declare yourself as an American and really believe that. I don't think you can declare. I can't. I don't know. I don't know people who move to England and actually can say that they are England like a British person, right? They could say they have a
Especially
British
from
passport.
Iran, Pakistan, or somewhere else. Yeah. I'm
Okay, I
British.
was trying to choose something less controversial here, Nick.
Okay, yeah, yeah,
So so basically yeah, I mean, but America's this is what makes it so great, right?
but
Is
I'm
that
talking
we
about
basically
terrorism. This is the also important thing. But I think we can, discuss about it in the future our programs. Yeah, but this is also very important for situation for us, for the immigrants, especially in the Democrat states. In Republican, we have the safety situation here because we have
Mhm,
Second Amendment, because
mhm,
we have thanks God Ron DeSantis, or in Texas, so we have Greg Abbott. Sorry, something messed up in my head. Yeah, but you're right. We have to fight anyway. We have to fight every moment. We have to climb.
mhm,
We have to climb together. And
mhm,
so, yes, we have to build community around us because we're nothing without team.
mhm. No,
That's right.
absolutely. Yeah, totally. I agree with you.
Lynn, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you join to our broadcast and you ask the question very honest, and I see it. This is life. The life is always honest. You cannot hide anything behind. You can see everything, and so you can ask the questions. You can even join us using the link. I think the next week, we have. Agreements to have that broadcast Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern time. I think nothing changed, and we're gonna have that broadcast next week. But we continue, announce that before, against of the time, of course, ahead of time. Sorry. So, Lynn, thank you so much. I wish you good luck. I just, gonna be waiting for the next week, and so please win for us. Please run for Florida State Representative. Please do that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you,
having
Lynn.
me, Nick. Have a great
Really
weekend.
appreciate it. You too.
Have a
Have a
great weekend,
great
everyone.
weekend. See you next week.
Okay, bye bye.